I'm not even sure that Jasmine Crockett out of Texas wants to be a squad member. I think she's trying to go out solo on her own act. It's not like she's trying to be the, fifth made-up member of the Beatles. She's just trying to be, the next superstar on the Democratic side of the aisle. That's what she's going for, and I'm here for it, man. I mean, I will give Sharice Davids here in Kansas a lot of credit for being smart in how she basically doesn't do media, and also how, at least when she does do media, she does a decent job, not a great job, but did a decent job on the Kansas side of projecting herself as somewhat of a middle-of-the-road moderate. Now, she doesn't always vote that way, but I give credit where it's due. She's gotten elected now, let's see, 18, 20, 22, 24, 4 straight times. You can't take that away from her. She does limited media, and when she does it, she projects a middle-of-the-road mentality, even if her voting record doesn't always match up with it, and her voting record is largely in line with Nancy Pelosi's. But you know what? You got to play the game, and she plays it pretty darn well. But then you get some of these other members of Congress, and they do not play the game well. And the worst part is they don't realize they don't play the game well. The only thing worse than a stupid person is a stupid person who thinks they're smart. That's actually a lot more dangerous. Self-awareness matters. Self-awareness is very valuable. I believe self-awareness is the most underrated trait that somebody can have. It doesn't matter how smart you are. If you have self-awareness about how people perceive you, if you have self-awareness about your standing, about the group you're in, about what you're about to do, what you know, what you don't know, man, you can go a long way. And when people talk about the great qualities and great traits that super successful people have, I believe self-awareness is one of those traits that gets very undervalued in the process. And Sharice Davids has it. Jasmine Crockett down in Texas does not have it. She goes on with Charlamagne the God, probably the biggest hip-hop show on radio yesterday. And, of course, Doge comes up. Doge is incredibly popular with the American people based on polling. No matter what CNN is saying, no matter what MSNBC is saying, the polling shows it's very popular. And I'll share that coming up here in a second. But Jasmine Crockett's not about that Doge life. No. And here's what she said about it yesterday on Charlamagne the God's radio show.
There is a lot of waste, fraud, and abuse in the federal government, though.
I'm not going to say that there's a lot. I'm going to say that it does exist. I'm going to say that it exists. I don't think that there's a lot. I think.
So why are we so in debt then?
We're in debt because we decide that we're going to reduce the income.
Show some RESPICT.
We're in debt because we're reducing the income? Income of who? The income of what? It doesn't make any. It does not make an ounce of sense. Now, if she means we are reducing the income of the government because of tax breaks for the rich, you hear that one all the time. Well, after the Trump tax cuts of 2017, which was supposed to be the big tax break for the wealthy, well, we have continued to bring in more revenues to the federal government than we ever have in American history. Our $2 trillion deficit has nothing to do with how much money we bring in to the Federal Reserve. It has everything to do with how much money we spend. It's kind of like lifestyle creep. You hear Dave Ramsey talk about this, and, you hear anybody who is a financial guru talk about how, hey, let's say your income's 30 grand, then it's 40, 50, 60. As your income goes up, you get lifestyle creep. You get accustomed to living a lifestyle at a certain price point and income level. And as a result, you don't maybe save as much, because a lot of people think, hey, if I could just make another 20%, I'd be saving money left and right. Most people don't, because of lifestyle creep. They should, and they say they will, but when they actually get that raise, they don't end up saving it. They just end up spending it on a better lifestyle. Well, the government is the worst example ever of lifestyle creep, because for decades now, they've been putting it on the credit card and not worrying one bit about the end game. not caring one iota about $36 trillion in debt and $2 trillion annual deficits. And for Jasmine Crockett to say, I think there's like a little bit of waste, fraud, and abuse. Trust me, you don't want to be on the side of the government and think that your entire political base is like, rah, rah, we're all in. We love the government. We love public workers. I mean, I like and appreciate anyone who may work for the government if they do a good job. But it's just like anybody else. Trust me, there are people not doing a good job. Government employees are not some protected class of workers. And that's how people like Jasmine Crockett want us to treat them. And most of us aren't falling for it. And the polling backs it up. Harvard-Harris poll yesterday. Undertaking a full-scale effort to fund and eliminate fraud and waste in government expenditures. 76% of Americans in a Harvard-Harris poll support that. 24% oppose. I want to be on the 76 side. There's not many things in America right now that you can get 76% agreement on. When you get that agreement, you know you're on the right side. Also, cutting government expenditures that were already allocated by Congress. 59% approve, 41% oppose. I want to be on the 59 side. Freezing and reevaluating foreign aid. 63% support, 37% oppose. The good news is we're in a very different media environment. People are finding shows like this one, whether it's right here on 95.7 FM, whether it's, on the podcast after the show, Apple, Spotify, you're listening on your smartphone, your smart speaker. Of course, there are many different other outlets and shows, maybe not as many locally driven here in Kansas City, but certainly national ones, where you can also get this information, which is hurting the power and the influence of the legacy media, which is trying to drive a narrative of, oh my gosh, everyone hates Doge. Look at the town halls that Mark Alford is having in Belton. 200, 300 people showed up to protest Elon. And the goal then is to make you think twice about your support of Doge. Don't fall for it. Don't fall for what Jasmine Crockett was trying to sell on Charlamagne the God. Something tells me this show does not have a lot of crossover appeal to Charlamagne the God. I might be wrong about that.
Talk about a bombshell.
But I feel pretty confident in saying Charlamagne the God and I do not have a lot of crossover appeal. Although I would have him on the show in a heartbeat if he finds himself in Kansas City anytime soon. But Jasmine Crockett was not done there. This is an all-timer right here. Here we go.
And we know, this isn't me trying to throw shade. These are just the facts. Mm-hmm. When you look at who's voting for who, the less educated folk, and when I say educated, I'm not even talking about formal education. I'm talking about people that literally don't want to read and enlighten themselves on facts. Mm-hmm. Those are the people that typically vote for the Republicans, and it's one of the reasons that we have to stop writing in theses as Democrats, right? We want to give you every single little detail that we can find so that you can have all the information. But the reality is that the average person that is going out there and voting, they're not paying attention to that.
Okay, she goes, basically, Democrats are more well-educated than Republicans. And then she goes on to say, I'm not even talking about formal education. I'm talking about not wanting to read. How do you quantify that?
She's a real beauty.
There's no data to back that up. Republicans don't want to read? I mean, at least if you said, hey, this is based on trends we are seeing, and it is true that Democrats have grown their base with college-educated voters. That is true. We've talked a lot about those trends. You get more working-class people, blue-collar people voting for Republicans than you ever have, and you are getting the base of the Democrat Party being who I call OWWs, overeducated, woke white people. That is true, but she doesn't even say the fact. She goes, I'm not talking about formal education. I'm talking about they don't want to read. Excuse me?
I'm confused about my role. Is it that I don't want to read or that I'm reading misinformation?
Well,
can't be both, right?
Yeah, you're right. It can't be both.
Can't be both.
It can't be both.
If she'd make up her mind about what I'm supposed to do, then I'll do it.
Oh, that's a great point.
Would she make up my mind?
It's just like she almost could have stuck to the facts there, because the facts are nearly half of Democrats today have a 4-year college degree. And that's about double what it was in the late 1990s. So, like, she could have said that, but then she also doesn't want to insult her audience if they don't have a college degree. So she goes down this weird winding road of, like, I'm not talking about education. I'm talking about who wants to read. Well, what's your data to back that up? You mean we don't want to read the nonsense you're trying to sell us? And I will just say, thank goodness. Thank goodness we aren't.